Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today we're going to be reviewing the 2023 film The Nun II, and this is directed by Michael Chavez and stars Teresa Farmiga, Joseph Bloquet and Storm Reid. This tells the story of Sister Irene having to come face to face with the demon Valak once again, 4 years after the events of the first Nun film. Now I gotta be honest, even though I'm a huge horror fan, I'm not really big on the Conjuring universe franchise. I think 1 and 2 are really solid horror movies. I actually prefer the second one over the first, but everything after that seems to be very average or dull, and I do think the first Nun movie falls into that dull category, unfortunately. So I wasn't really looking all that forward to the Nun 2. However, going in, I heard in early rumblings that this was actually a well-made film and a little bit of a surprise. So what did I think of the Nun 2? Let's find out. However, I do think there's much more meat on the bones to the story in this sequel. In the first film, we just had it all centering around the one location in the Abbey, and that kind of made for a bit of a boring movie, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying all movies that are based in one location are bad. In fact, there's some excellent movies that do that. But it just didn't work for that film and that story that was going for it there. However, we have two stories kind of going on here. One with the demon Valak turning up at this school full of these young children, and the other one is Sister Irene and her new best friend going on a journey to find and track down Valak once and for all. And that made it, for me, instantly more interesting. And I liked how the movie fed us information in two different ways from these two different stories. So in the school, we have Valak and what he's up to there, how characters are being taunted by this demon, what is actually going on there. And the other side of the story, we're finding out why he is doing this and what he's actually after and why he showed up at this school. So we have what's actually going on and why it's happening. And I just thought that was a cool little dynamic.
Something wrong with the school. Something doesn't feel right.
And I think as I'm getting older, I'm just fully appreciating the slow burn story of horror movies. I kind of don't want everything straight away. I'm very happy to wait until the third act. And the Nun 2 does exactly that. But I was fully immersed in what was going on. And there are scare scenes in between. I mean, I think you've got to have that, right? But most of this is story building, what we're getting fed here. And it's not going to work for everyone. That is definitely not the case. But for me, it did. However, if you want a little bit more action and what's going on, the turn of pace in the third act will probably work for you. So don't worry too much about that. And one of the biggest positives for me here was the lighting and the visual style of this movie. I think that was the biggest positive I could give the first film as well. Credit where it's due. And that is carried on here, I'm glad to say. A lot of people may think this film is too dark, but for me, I think that was very fitting because the time period we're in, the theme of the movie, it just feels like it should look like this. But I like how light is introduced in all the right areas at all the right moments. When characters are walking down cobbly streets or narrow alleyways, it all just lights up beautifully. And for me, it was kind of a comforting feel. I don't know if that's the right feeling you want in a horror movie, but it was just a treat to look at for me, I thought personally. And I was just kind of like, oh, I love the visual style here. I also liked how the lighting worked here with the scare scenes as well, with lights flickering on and off, shadows moving into darkness, silhouettes in the background. It all just had well-built tension, I thought. And some of the scare scenes were really well done. Not all of them, but some of them. And when they're done well, they're done well. Like the one that really stood out for me was all involving this magazine stand. And I just thought that was giving off James Wan vibes, dare I say. And as you can imagine, a lot of these scenes have the demon Valak in them. And I do think that he is one of the strongest, if not the strongest demon in the entire Conjuring franchise, or universe, should I say. But I just love the whole visual look of him. And I'm not really scared of films, and this is no exception. Films just do not really scare me. But every time he showed up, there was a little bit of a sense of dread there and some creepy vibes going on. So yeah, I liked how they just made him pop up here and there, and we don't really see him fully flushed out until the third act. And I like how this movie gave a lot more purpose to the demon Valak, because there's a clear path that we soon find out that he is going to go down here, and I'm not going to get into what he's after or anything like that, but he is not going to stop at anything to get it. And I just felt like it gave him much more of a threat compared to the first film. Now, I got a bit of a mixed thought on some of the characters here. Teresa Farmiga as Sister Irene was a welcome back addition. I do think she's a cool protagonist to get behind, even though I can't stop seeing her sister Vera Farmiga in her. The resemblance is just so similar. But, you know, she still holds her own here. She is definitely a great actress, whether she's related to her or not. I just think she looks so much like her. But she is someone who you feel like she's a bit of an underdog in this film. You feel like she stands no chance, and who doesn't love a good underdog? So I totally latched onto her, and I wanted her to succeed in bringing this demon down once and for all. But her new friend Deborah, played by Storm Reid, who is this practicing nun, goes on this journey with her, and unfortunately she just felt like a character who had no real story or depth to her, because she feels like she's just there for conversation instead of just watching Irene looking out a window when she's on the train traveling to these certain locations. It gives them conversation to have. And don't get me wrong, they do use her to explain to the viewer a few things, which I kind of appreciate, but I just wish she had a little bit more of a story arc, or felt a little bit more important in this film, but she's just kind of there, and it's unfortunate because Storm Reid is a really good actress. Maurice also returns in this film, and he was a cool character in the first movie, so I was glad to see him in the sequel. However, there's this forced connection that he has with this young girl in this film, and I didn't quite get that. I didn't quite get what the movie was going for with that. And it just felt a little bit strange at times. Like, even the other girls are going, like, they're tormenting her and stuff, and he'll turn off and they'll go, oh, your boyfriend's here to save you. And she's like 12 and he's like 30. Or they just, I don't know what they were doing there. So that was just some chemistry that I couldn't quite get behind. However, he's still a cool character and plays an important role to the story. Unfortunately, we do have a load of CGI thrown in as well, in the third act mainly, which has to be the action-packed climax to the movie, doesn't it? So I kind of expected it. But honestly, I just check out in the scare department when this happens. CGI has never been scary to me. It kind of ruined the It remake for me at times. And I just wish they wouldn't overuse it. It doesn't look terrible, but it just doesn't fit in horror movies for me personally. And I get why they're using it, because these big set pieces are happening. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of CGI in horror, and there is a lot of it in the third act. Despite it looking okay, it's still noticeable. To be honest, I was quite surprised by The Nun II, though. Overall, I had a really good time with it, and it is one of the strongest movies in the Conjuring universe, and definitely better than the first film. Now, that isn't too hard of a task, but it was nice to see. I wasn't expecting anything from this, and I came out pleasantly surprised. It does have the feelings of a generic horror movie, I'm not going to lie, but I think there's a few more extra sprinklings to make it just stand a little bit above that. Okay guys, I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie. Now, I'm going to give The Nun II a 7 out of 10. It was nice to go into a supernatural, demonic horror film and come out pleasantly surprised, because we get one of these every single week now, don't we? But it seems that way. But this movie had a little bit of heart to it, and I can appreciate that. If you're a fan of these films, I think this will do it for you. Okay guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for The Nun II is that Michael Chavez has actually directed more films in the Conjuring universe than anyone else, with that total being 3: The Curse of La Llorona, The Conjuring 3, and The Nun II. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please don't forget to check out my other 2023 movie reviews in the description down below, and leave a comment what you think of the Conjuring universe or The Nun II, and I'll try and get back to you all, I promise. Please give this video a like and subscribe if horror is your sort of thing. Thanks so much. I'll see you all on the next video. Take care.